The opinions and views shared in this podcast are the opinions and views of the host and the host alone. They are not a reflection of his employer or any other organization that the host is a member of. The host does not speak for anyone, only himself.
This is the I Am Pitts podcast. Get ready for contact. Yeah, get some.
Any available unit. Copy on a sheet.
Oscar 37 en route.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is your boy Dex with the I Am Pitts podcast, and we are back for another episode. Super excited about this episode because I have a first in my life and a first time in the studio. We have an actual Navy SEAL, a real frogman I'm about to bring onto the podcast. His name is Jacob Bachman, and I'm super excited about this interview, not just simply because he is a Navy SEAL, but because of what he is representing and what he is here to help try to do and raise money for, the Navy SEAL Foundation, man. Really good foundation. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and bring in the man, Mr. Bachman. Jacob, what's going on, my brother?
Not much, Dex. Pleasure to be on here. Appreciate you having me.
Now, I'm gonna try to see if you're a real Navy SEAL. Take your hat off for me. Let me see your hair. Nah, I don't know, man. They always said SEALs got the hairdos.
You know, when I got out, I went through probably about a couple years of not cutting it. I mean, it was shoulder length, long and luxurious, and you know, I only did that for so long, and then ended up doing the whole, well, let's do it in phases, right? Cut down all the sides, leave a top little Viking thing. And I'm like, all right, let me go back to being kind of like a normal human being here instead of just looking like Jesus or looking like a Viking, one of the two. So,
Man,
no, real deal. I was Bud's class 273. So I went almost straight through. So,
man, so how old are you?
Me, I am 34.
34. Okay, so you're only a couple years younger than me. So, man, so how old were you when you joined the Navy and decided you wanted to be a Navy SEAL?
So when I decided I was going to be a SEAL, I was about probably 5.
Oh, so this was in the blood. Okay.
Yeah. So like my dad, he was a Ranger, Army Ranger for 20 years.
Oh, hell yeah.
My oldest brother's Army. My other brother's Air Force. So I mean, we grew up military household, and that's it. Yeah, it was in our blood. So I'd be running around, in the backyard with my dad's old kit and stuff like that, cami paint all over my face. He taught me how to dive when I was way too young to be doing it, but he would just sit at the edge of the pool and I'd just vacuum out the bottom of the pool, and I thought it was the coolest thing ever. But so fast forward, then went through and finally kind of decided what I was going to do with my life, came back around to it, and ended up graduating, kind of did the summer, and then ended up joining the delayed entry program.
Oh yeah.
And then went to Great Lakes for Navy boot camp in January of 2008. So
okay.
Yeah, a little bit chilly in Great Lakes.
Oh man, I'm sure that got you ready for what was coming though.
Yeah, and that's one of the funny things. So going through to get the SO, the SEAL contract, when I came in initially to the delayed entry program, it started out where SO was not its own rating, or like MOS, right, for other branches.
Can you explain to our audience what SO is?
SO is Special Operator. So gotcha. SEAL, Sea, Air, Land Commando is what SEAL actually stands for. So then, I forget sometimes doing these.
A lot of civilians tune in.
Right. So you got to kind of, instead of just acronyming people to death, you gotta
military loves to do, my brother.
Oh man, my wife will hit me on some of that, and she's like, "What are you talking about?" But so we'll initially I was going to come in as a corpsman. I figured that, hey, that'd be a great kind of feather in the cap, so to speak, to bring into the teams. And then just prior to leaving for boot camp, it actually became its own contract. So I got into stellar shape for that, for the PST, the physical standard test, and did that, got in actually worse shape in boot camp.
I've
The
heard that.
division, the division I was a part of, it was all Naval Special Warfare candidates, so NSW. So that's all the guys that are doing diver, EOD, the explosive ordnance disposal, the SWIC, the special weapons combat crewmen, like the boat drivers that you
Boats,
see, like,
yeah.
yeah, either out on the ocean or drifting around riverbanks, like just crazy swamp people. Those guys are, yeah, they're awesome, awesome dudes. So we had all the candidates, and then of course the guys that were going SEAL for our unit. So I mean, we even had like extra PTs in the morning, and all of us ended up out of shape. Like, everyone showed up. We're like, yeah, and then we graduated. We're like, oh, what is this?
This
Like,
little
I'm a
pouch.
little squishy here. So after that, then you end up going. They started a program in Great Lakes. You just kind of go across the street from the basic training command over to kind of like the regular, where they have all the other like specialty schools for guys that are going to be learning their trades for the Navy. And all you do is pretty much eat, sleep, and work out there. They had fantastic coaches, and we actually got back into shape then before going out to Coronado to start buds.
That's a
So,
beautiful life, man. Eat, sleep, and work out, bro. I tell
yeah,
people there is nothing more simple. I mean, it is the best way to live, dude. Especially when you're a young
yeah,
man. It's like, that's all I got to do. All right, cool. Getting paid to
yeah,
work out, man.
exactly. Yeah, I mean, really didn't have much to worry about there. So ended up getting out to Coronado. Originally started with class 272, and
And
got
this was
about
what year was this? 2008, 2009?
still sitting in 2008. Yeah, like I said, I joined right at January 2008, so ended up out around April or so. By the time 2 months or so of boot camp, 2 months or so of the prep course, and then getting into actual like there's like the prep part, and then they have in doc, and then you start first phase, where then it's game on. So I was about 2 weeks in the first phase. We're doing pool stuff, doing good. I'm down at the bottom of the pool, and I go to Valsalva and clear my ears. I'm like, oh, weird. I was like, that was a weird pop. And I kind of looked. I could see bubbles coming out of my ear when I was
Oh, God.
blowing, and I was like, huh. The rest of the day we were doing rock portage. So you take your little inflatable boats and you go and try and land them up on the rocks, and you're doing all that craziness. And I was like, man, I can't hear anything. Well, the next morning I woke up and my pillow's just disgusting. I'm like, ooh, I was like,
Oh,
I bet I
wow.
got a bad ear infection. End up going to the, to medical, which is a terrible place. You never want to go there when you're buds, because usually what happens is you end up, rolled or dropped or
Mhm.
something, because, oh, hey, this is broke or whatever. Luckily, I guess, I had blown out like 50% of my right eardrum, and
Whew.
they had some med students in there, because who better to look at for
Then
just any kind of weird and craziness than some kids going through buds, right?
yeah. Oh,
And
absolutely.
so the doc's looking in there, and he's like, oh, okay. He's like, hey, can they take a look at this? I was like, whatever, sure. And so they take a look in there, and they're like, oh, I'm like, okay, can somebody let me in on this? Like, what's going on? And they're like, well, you blew out like 50% of your eardrum, so like we're gonna have to roll you because you can't go in the water. And I was like, ah, crap. So I, got rolled back in class, started up again,
How long?
and
How
then
far? How far into your training were you when that happened?
so like I said, that was like the second week of first phase. So I had
Okay, not
already
horrible
gone,
then. Not awful.
not
Yeah.
not terrible, because you had like 3 weeks of in doc, and then you had like 2 weeks of first phase, and then uh so first phase you go, and then on the, man, I'm so far removed from this now. I think it's the third or fourth week of first phase. You start Hell Week, so it wasn't so bad where I had like already started Hell Week or
Hell
something
week.
like that.
Yeah.
It's like, all right, like, I hadn't gone through too much. It's just gonna have to go back through all that crazy, you
Yeah.
know. Do you swear on here?
Oh,
I like.
absolutely. You go for it,
Oh,
bro.
I was like, just
Go for it.
like the fuck games, right?
Yeah, oh yeah. Oh, we all know about that
Just
in the military.
Yeah, exactly. Like, oh, here's your barracks inspection. Here's this. Oh, you failed. Go, jump in the ocean, get sandy, ruin all your stuff. So that way, next week it's going to be just even worse because now you have to get everything totally cleaned and reset. So,
Now,
all right.
did you serve with any noticeable or whether well-known SEALs in your class?
Um, I mean, going through like trying to think of like what guys did now, and I mean it's our class. We had a big class starting out. Um, and then it trickles down, guys get rolled, everything like that. I mean, as far as noticeable, I mean, okay, they weren't in my class, but this is kind of a funny fact. So the movie that came out years ago, Act of Valor, right? And they
Oh
had
yeah,
like the active duty
actual
SEALs.
SEALs.
All of those guys, uh, they were all like my first phase cadre. So like
Oh
all
man.
my first like a funny part because we're sitting there. Of course, you got to go see it, and we're like, oh wait, I remember him. Like he did this to me. He kicked me down the berm, and did this. So those guys were doing that. One of the guys that ended up graduating with uh, why I don't know why I can't think of his last name right. Gum, Jeff Gum. So he's the founder and CEO of Sungas, like the little silky shorts that they do,
Oh
like
yeah, yeah.
the Ranger panties and
Ranger
like
panties.
bikinis, yeah, and
Yeah.
bikinis and stuff like that. Sunga. So I mean, he's got that, and a couple other guys have gone on to do some really good stuff for themselves. Mainly, no one like a big book deal or anything like that that I can
Do you,
can
do you
think
have a
of.
book yet? Do you have a book yet?
No, I guess I'm not a real SEAL there
I'll tell you what,
because
man. People give SEALs a lot of crap for writing the books, but like I said, I'm a combat vet. I wrote a book,
yeah,
but dude, I'm telling you, them are some of the most inspirational books. The last SEAL book I read was a story. I believe it was Adam Brown. This
okay,
guy,
yeah,
bro, my God, dude. I mean, what an amazing story. That just tells you how amazing Navy SEALs are. The fact that this guy was literally a crackhead, had hooked on drugs, and was able to power through that and become just an absolute total badass. And then gave his life up on the battlefield in Afghanistan for his buddies. I'm just like, man, what an amazing story. And it's one of those stories people don't know the name Adam Brown. I'm like, bro, you gotta read the book. And I'm
oh
like,
yeah,
these are the people that make America great, guys like you. And I tell people, man, like this, there's just something special about SEALs. You guys are awesome. Everybody knows you guys are awesome. I mean, you guys, oh no, we're just I'm like, no, SEALs are pretty spectacular, man. So how does it feel when you graduate buds that you are now amongst this small group of elite warriors in the world, man? What goes through your mind? And I'm sure you probably looked at your dad like, I'm better than you.
oh no.
Yeah, I
So
know.
everyone else gives me that too. They're like, so was your dad like mad when you like went that route? I was like, dude, I could have been a trash man, and my pops would have been proud of me. He would have been like, dude, just go be the best trash man you can be.
There you go.
But like, no, it was cool because like, well, and the thing is, you say, okay, you graduate buds, well, then you got SQT. So the entire training pipeline, because from when you get to buds, that's 6 months. If you go straight through and you're doing everything right, you don't get rolled, that's 6 months. So, getting rolled back a little bit, okay, that's 8. Some guys spend like a year plus there because, they break something. But then you go into SUT, which buds for the breakdown, which it stands for Basic Underwater Demolition School. All right, getting the civilians kind of up to speed on that. So first phase is essentially just a selection and a big just kick in the nuts. That's where you're doing all your log PT. You run around with boats on heads. There's really You're doing timed evolutions, 4-mile timed beach runs, 2-mile ocean swims, the obstacle course, everything like that. And you're just kind of getting your shit pushed in. You go through Hell Week, you're going through just a couple hours of sleep across the 5 days. You get like 2 nap breaks for like 3 hours and 2 hours. You're falling asleep. Like it's looking back, you're like, man, that shit was funny.
It's
like,
crazy how you look back at it, isn't it?
yeah, like you're like, it sucked, but like there was some funny stuff. Like at one point I'm sitting there sleeping, like standing up, and I just like raised my hand, and the instructor's like, "What do you want?" Like just like snapped out of it. It's like, oh shit. He's like, "Were you sleeping?" I was like, He's like, "Wet and Sandy, go." And I'm like, shit, fuck. So the whole crew goes, and then people get pissed, but then the next thing you know, like they're doing the same exact thing because you're on day 3 and everyone's just loopy. But when you look behind the curtain, it's orchestrated madness. Like I had a buddy who was a first phase instructor, and I ended up going back. I was in San Diego for like another training course, and they were like, "Hey, yeah, we got Hell Week going." I was like, "Dude, can I come watch Breakout?" He's like, "Yeah, absolutely." So I'm sitting up top with like the CEO, the CMC of Buds, and like a couple of the other guys, and we're like hanging out. I got my coffee, and it's like, all right, it's game time. Like, let's watch. And just seeing everyone get sprayed with the hoses. They had the machine guns going with the blanks, the artillery simulators, and you're just like, man, okay, like seeing it from the other side.
A lot more fun, I'm sure.
Oh yeah, a little bit different. Like I said, warm, dry, nice little drink, and not going and knowing that you got 5 more days of this. So yeah, but so you go through, you do SQT, you do all your training for that. You're doing your close quarter combat, you're doing your diving, your land warfare. You go to jump school, get your free fall qual, and you're doing all that. And then you show up at your team, and you're a new guy. So you're at the bottom of
that's a whole nother monster right there.
Yeah. So you go, and it's hey, good job. You've just passed that. You got your bird. Sit down. You're in the back of the bus. Like you're at the bottom of the totem pole. Like, and you're going through a whole new world of fuck games. And you're like, man. But it's all good. So
it's a rite of passage,
Yeah, exactly. And so when we were getting to the end of our training pipeline, they kind of ask you, hey, do you want to either go to the 18 Delta course, which is like the Special Forces Medic course, or do you want to go to a West Coast team or an East Coast team? And we're kind of like, well, what's the difference? And the advice that we were given, or I guess the breakdown you could say is, if you want to surf and be in movies, go to a West Coast team. If you want to work and do your job, you go to the East Coast. So naturally, I'm like, I didn't just do this to go get a tan and surf. So I went to the East Coast. So I ended up checking into SEAL Team 4, and that was about October. Graduated somewhere in like the fall of like 2009, 2010.
And those teams are all out of Virginia, correct?
So yeah, you got the kind of breakdown there, and you kind of got the West Coast teams are like the odd numbers, and then you got the East Coast team are like the even number teams.
Okay.
So, and it's just how they break it down. There's not like a hierarchy, like, team 1 is better than team 2 or anything like that. It's just left, right, east, west. That's how they odds and evens. So we immediately started doing all of our training workup, and that's where when they throw these big bonuses out for getting guys to go into special warfare and everything. Like, hey, $40,000 bonus, right? Well, the trick is they actually put a 2-year extension on there, so you're getting set up right. Yeah, so you're getting you don't just set up for a 4-year enlistment. You're automatically booked for 6 because they want to make sure they get
their money's worth, man. Yeah.
Well, because they're going to put at least 1.5 years, 2 years into you before you even get to your team and actually deploy. So we go and do that. So first deployment was to Afghanistan. I was in Southeast Afghanistan,
What year was
and we were
that?
doing. So I was out at Fob Nabahar is what it was called, and we were doing. At the end of it, it turned into the VSO, the Village Stability Operations that were going on. So we just had, I mean, when we got out there, it was just the HESCO areas, like which are
Nothing.
those. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
chicken wire fencing stuff with some burlap, and you fill it up with dirt. Boom, you got a wall. Uh, so
Man,
that's what we had, and
that was
I
what,
mean,
2010,
yep,
2011?
2010. And so we got out there, did that, and it was pretty good right off the bat. Turnover op. We had our sister platoon. They had a helo crash. All but like one of the guys died on that. So it was kind of like
Yeah.
that wake up call to, holy shit, man, this is real. Like getting woke up at middle of the night pretty much and going, hey, there's a bird down. Grab your shit. Like get ready. Because we were their QRF, their quick reaction force, if they needed us. So we're like, okay. And so they got everything, taken care of there. We ended up not going out for that. Like I said, they had everything handled, but it was just that kind of that just sucker punch to the gut, man, of just, it's real. Everything that you just got ready for, boom, right on turnover. It's there. So we go through. It was kind of a crazy deployment overall, just because we were out and it was so remote, and the things we were doing where we're rolling around in the little side by side ATVs, just doing that, and you're like, man, if this thing like hits an IED,
It's a wrap.
like it's gone. But like, so, we try and mitigate that by, not taking roads and using the vehicles to our advantage and going where places it's going to be more difficult for them to put something. But so we go and we do that. And I mean, there was a lot of things. I mean, we could probably do a whole episode just breaking down that stuff. But as far as kind of just doing a blanket statement, and please, Dex, if you got specific questions or anything like that you feel like your viewers would want to know
Oh yeah,
more on.
I'm just letting you flow, bro. Because I mean, it's amazing, man. Let me ask you. So, as a
Yeah.
brand new Navy SEAL, a new guy on a first deployment,
Yep.
what's your first thought when you got off that plane in Afghanistan? Because I remember my first thought when I went to Iraq and I got on that plane and left overseas. My first thought was, oh my God, I hope I don't mess up. That was all I cared about. Concern was, man, I want to do my job and do it well. I don't want to let these guys down. And because I know
Oh, yeah.
that the standards are so high in the SEAL community and now especially overseas on combat deployments, man. What's in your mind, coming there with these guys? And then you're probably with guys that have been to Afghanistan by this time 6, 7, 8 times, man. What's going through
Yeah.
your mind?
So yeah, we had a handful of guys that had been, a lot of them were doing Iraq prior to that, because at that point there was a split where West Coast was handling Afghanistan and East Coast was kind of covering down on Iraq, because it was kind of that in between. They had both fronts sort of going. And so we had a couple guys that had done Iraq, a few guys that had done both. But yeah, getting on the ground at Kandahar, and you're just like, all right, and you just got your stuff, and you're like, well, now what? Like, we're here. It's like, well, now we got to wait for a helicopter, and then we can fly you out to here and do this. And you're like, all right, the hurry up and wait classic of the military.
Yeah.
So you're like, I'm here, I'm ready. And, just kind of getting everything set up. But it was just kind of interesting, especially like I said, my older brother, he was like one of the first into Afghanistan when it kicked off. He was into Iraq. So I had heard all these stories from him about some of these places, and then to go ahead and see that, I'm like, oh, okay, I got it. That's what he was talking about. So, it's eye-opening, and yeah, you don't want to mess up, because it's driven into you during training, and if you messed up, you got hammered. And then now it's, hey, if you mess up, it could be your life, it could be your buddies. So you're really trying to be just on your A game at all times, which we all know is almost near impossible and absolutely takes a toll on you. So going through, then we end up getting out there, and for me, I had gone, and as I had mentioned, I got to the team right when we were starting our initial training block, which is ULT, or unit level tactics. So that's where you're getting together and you're doing all your mobility, your driving blocks, you're doing your diving, you're doing your CQC, your close quarter combat. You're going through all these blocks again, making sure everyone's got the latest and greatest, information coming back for tactics and procedures, and everyone's getting on their A game and making sure they're good to roll out the door. So I didn't really get a lot of. They have a block before that, called Pro Dev, or professional development, which is where you're getting all your individual schools. Like if you were to go to sniper school or breacher school, communications
specialties and all that. Yeah.
right? Because everyone, you're not just wearing this hat. Like, oh, I'm a SEAL. Boom, I got it. No, you have like 6 other hats that you're throwing on. We like to say a jack of all trades, master of none, because
A lot of jobs to get done, man.
and only a handful of guys to get that done with. So when we're out at our little, outpost, we got a couple of support people, but for the most part, we're in there, we're building stuff. We were lucky enough to have like a group of CBs, like the Navy construction guys, to help us out building stuff, because we had to build our houses, like our little bee hut, our hooches and stuff to live in, and make sure stuff's like working. We didn't have hot water, running water for a long time. So you're going and taking water bottles or baby wipe showers for a while.
Oh, yeah.
Your uniform, you can stand it up because it's just so
The salt.
crusty and
The salt.
just so crusty. And you're like, all right, well, let me put this on and do a squat real quick, crack it out. Okay. Good roll.
Man, how long were you on that deployment?
So that one, we were still looking at the 6-month model. So the teams generally have like a 6-6 and like 6. It's broken up across 18 months into like 6-month blocks. So like I said, you got that professional development, which you got about 6 months there, guys to get their main qualifications, their main schools in. And then you got another 6 months of that unit level tactics, getting everybody together, kind of getting back on your horse and making sure everyone's jiving, doing good there. And then you got another 6 months with kind of starting to bring in everybody that you're going to actually deploy with, and getting a little bit more precise before you do that. And then you got another 6-month generally deployment. So at the end of that, all said and done, it was probably about 7-8 months. I ended up going back on like one of the first flights, because my chief is like, we're sending you to JTAC, so Joint Terminal Attack Controller. So
heck yeah.
Yeah, so the person that's responsible for coordinating with all the aircraft, doing all that. Yep.
That's a stressful job, bro. That just sounds awful, because I remember trying to do the call for fire in the Army, and I was like, bro, I'm gonna kill us all, man. I'm gonna let somebody else do this. Man, dude,
yeah, I got back. I had about 6 days from getting back stateside till I was back on an airplane going out to Nevada to go do that course. So just turning and burning. And that's, like I said, hey, you want to go work? That's where you went. And work I did. So did that, got a bunch of schools in, and we knew we were gearing back up. We were going back to Afghanistan. So we did that whole training pipeline. This time it's a little bit different. I got a platoon under my belt. I'm not the new guy not a new guy anymore. Yeah, I had made rank. So it's a little bit different. It's like, okay, I at least have an idea a little bit of what's expected, what I need to do, and what we're getting into. So we ended up deploying again to the southeast in Afghanistan, and I was the primary JTAC for that.
And what year was this one when you went back over?
So that would have been 2011.
2011. How many deployments did you have total? Because you
So
did
that
10
that
years in the teams, right?
yeah. So overall, I only had 4 deployments total. So that's
Only.
one thing only. Well, I mean, there's guys in Ranger Bat and everything else where they go and they just recycle them. They're
It's their
back for
life, man.
a couple months and then they're back out the door for like a year, or come back for a couple months. That is one thing with the teams. They had that breakdown of you're back, now you go into this pipeline. So unless you're going into something where you're augmenting and assisting like another team that needs like a special, like a qualification that you have and they can't fill it anywhere else, sometimes guys would do that, and there'd be a little bit more turnover on deployments there. But for the most part, it's still, you got that year and a half before you're back out the door. So that's where a lot of that time gets kind of going. It's like, yeah, 10 years, 4 deployments, but it's still during that second workup cycle. I mean, it was like I said, I had 6 days from when I got back from my first deployment before I was heading out to my first school to start training again. So doing that second deployment, like I said, we're doing that. I'm primary JTAC. So luckily that got me out the door on just about every op, because you had to have a JTAC in case you had to call fires, in case you had to call medevac, anything like that. You had to have one of those guys out on the op. And me being me, I was like, I'm gonna own this, and I'm gonna do the best I possibly can at it. So we had a couple other guys that were JTACs, and like sometimes they go. Mainly, I would say if it was like, all right, hey, you need to be down for a little bit, or hey, we really need you over here. And it's like, all right, sounds good. So we'd go about it that way, and that's the one that for the swim that I'm doing January 14th up in Tampa for the 15th annual Tampa Bay Frogman Swim, Matthew Kantor, which we just had a call because it was on November 1st was the anniversary, and it had been I mean, it's over 10 years now. Like thinking back now, it's like, holy, like time goes by.
It really does, man. It flies, dude.
It does. And that's what we've started doing. And one of the guys, he was actually the JO, the junior officer that was on that op with us. So we were out doing a patrol, and I was JTAC. I had the junior officer who was the ground force commander, the GFC. We had a couple Army Civil Affairs guys with us. I had another one of my new guys who he was rocking the ADUB and
What's
comms.
the ADUB?
Oh, sorry, the automatic weapons guy. So
Okay.
the Mark 48
Squad. Yeah, Mark 48.
like
SAW.
M60, the SAW, like running into your ADUB. So we were in the back element, and I was with Matt. We were like the last 2 guys going down this wadi, which is like a dried up riverbed, and we're sitting there, and he's scoping somebody. I'm like, dude, what's up? And he's like, well, there are guys over there, man. I was like, okay, well, like, what are they doing? He's like, they're standing there. I'm like, okay. Are they like, what do you got on them? Like guns, glass, ICOM, the walkie-talkie, like anything. And he's like, no, they're just sitting there, just looking over here. I'm like, okay. So we go down, and then we come back up on the other side, and the rest of the element, because we're in what's called a diamond formation. So it's kind of like broke up, like your little 4 fire teams in a diamond. So you got like a fire team up in the front, you got one on kind of left, right, and then we were that rear element bringing up the tail. And as soon as we got up on that other side, and it was just flat open farmland and just a PKM, which is another belt fed automatic weapon system that's real favored with insurgent groups.
It's a 7.62 millimeter, right, on that one, the PKM, right?
Yep.
It's their version of our 240, the American machine gun. It's literally their version of it. And that thing's them things are,
they'll
they
tear
work.
you up.
Yeah.
So we got up on that side, and right away, we got rounds cracking. I'm like, motherfucker, like just sitting there because I got nothing. Like I don't have a rock, a divot,
Yeah,
a
stuck out in the
push,
open.
just. And so we're sitting there, and I hear Matt, and then he goes down. And we had like I said, the Army Civil Affairs guys with us, and to this day they are phenomenal. They're not special forces. They're not nothing. They go out there to do civil affairs. Hey, can we help you with your well? Hey, what about this? And the team we had was phenomenal. So those guys. Sorry, my screen moved, and I didn't
Yep.
know if I
Nope.
was
You're
still there.
fine, brother. I'm
You're
trying
good.
to
All right,
pull it up here for the people to see this
awesome.
hero right here, man.
Yeah, so that's Matt, and so the Army Civil Affairs guy, they had their own medic. We called him Fat Mike, and he called himself Fat Mike. And I mean, total disregard. He just fucking sprinted, and he just starts working on Matt, and then their lieutenant comes running over, and he grabs the A-dub that Matt had and just picks it up and starts ripping. And I'm like, all right, cool. Like they got him. So I'm on comms, I'm calling stuff out, I'm shooting back, trying to get them into that. And all of a sudden there just a explosion goes not like 30 feet or so from us. I'm like, shit, dude, they got like mortars now, or they're launching their
It was
own
a
grenade
coordinated
launcher.
attack.
Well, it turned out it was the other new guy sitting right next to me. He had the 40 Mike, the grenade launcher, and he dumped it short. And so I looked over at him. I'm like, dude, take that sucker. I was like, see the tree line, see the building, wall. I was like, they're poking right over there. And so we're sitting there, the other elements are moving, doing everything they can there. So I get with the chief, and he kind of takes over the assault. And I go over and get with our junior officer and start working the medevac piece with him. So we go and we get that all cleaned up. I ended up getting some of the Kiowas in, the attack helicopters, and just laid waste to the tree line and got rid of that.
Where was Matt hit at, if you don't mind me asking?
So he ended up going, and the plate, how best guess, he ended up taking it right through the back, and it severed like the major artery that kind of runs right up your middle there.
Yeah.
And because what happened is it came up just under his plate, the back plate of his came right up under there, and then it got stuck in his front plate. So it was one of those things that, I mean, it was pretty quick. Like when we're calling for him for medevac, and I'm talking with medevac and giving them the update, and the guys, we had got Matt moved, got him to cover, suppress the threat, worked that, cleared that. And, it was just one of those things where, it was an expectant. So, we cleaned all that up, went going, had our,
and how old was he?
He was only a couple years younger than me.
And this was his first deployment?
This was his first. So him, and then the other guy that I was talking about and I apologize about this because this is still one of my like really like this hits my very soul and my core.
Hey, it's all good, brother.
And
all good, man.
So we're working that, and so Matt, and then the other Kinston was the other guy. He was a new guy as well, and they worked the communications department. So all the radios, making sure everyone's radios were programmed, had the right channels and frequencies and everything like that in it. So we spent a lot of time together, and I took a lot of time working with these guys. So it was a hard one on that, and working, and that was again pretty early on. We deployed in September, and that was in November. So went through, did that. That deployment, we had some other losses as well from another one of our platoons from Team 4, as well as our commanding officer, who took his own life on deployment.
Oh man,
So
that's horrible,
it was
man. That's a crush to
hard,
the morale, dude. The
and
commanding
it was
officer,
one of
my
those things
God.
that it was one of those things that we all kind of, it was heavy. That's really the only way that I can sum
Yeah,
that up, is that was a heavy one for us.
that's dark. That's
Uh,
dark, man. That
yeah,
cuts deep when your commander, the guy that's supposed to be keeping the troops uplifted and leading,
yeah,
decides to make an exit like that.
yeah.
That'll stick
So
with you,
that's
man.
so Matt was the first November, and then we had another guy, like I said, Kevin Ebert. He was with one of the other troops from Team 4, and they were doing like the commando mission, working with the Afghan commando units. They ended up getting into a gunfight, and he ended up taking around and getting killed as well. And then our CO ended up taking his own life, and that was just before Christmas. So in November, December, that was a lot for the team as a whole. We ended up getting another CO to come fill in and
How
kind of
deep were y'all
finish
into
out.
that deployment?
So that at that point we had switched over to doing 8-month deployments for the cycles instead of the 6. So that one again, we deployed in September. So Matt first of November, and then Kevin end of November, and then Commander Price right before Christmas. So I mean,
This
we
was
were
all on the front end of the deployment, man. That makes for a
yeah,
long 4 months to go.
exactly. Well, and
True.
everyone then at that point gets real risk adverse. No one wants to do anything else. At one point, all our resupply pretty much was getting airdropped in. So I'd be out there, and somebody in their infinite wisdom decided that, hey, let's not do this at night anymore. Let's drop your stuff during the daytime, right?
Oh no.
Because let's have a big old aircraft kick out a bunch of pallets, and you guys can collect that shit in broad
It's
daylight.
Yeah,
And we're
scattered to
like,
the wind. Oh no.
yeah, we're like, yeah, that sounds great. So we ended up getting into a contact while we were trying to do that, and for that one ended up getting some aircraft, got some helos, and then ended up getting some fast movers too. And I mean, we were out there. I'm in like cut off, shorts and my boots, and we're in our little side by sides, and we got dudes. We're just trying to get water, food, our
Survive, man.
fuel, like our basic things, and these guys just start cracking off, and we end up going, and I was working with the helo pilots, which it's the classic. They know, the enemy knows how much time, give or take, they have. Hey, we can take shots at you for about 2 or 3 minutes, then we got to beat feet because you're going to end up getting an aircraft on station, and then we're screwed. So they head out. Well, they made the mistake of shooting at the helos on their way out.
Oh boy.
Helos return fire, chased them down, got them coordinated, and it was a point. I draw out this story because it was a point for me where it made me kind of start questioning things, because they had the people that shot at us took off on their motorcycles, shot at the helos. Helos chased them down into a Carez hole, which is like the Carez system is how they would like move water, right? Kind of almost like a well for the viewers that aren't familiar with it. So they had kind of chased them down there. They ended up going and working with the F-16s, the fast movers. I had the video feed. I mean, it was every check in the block that you had to check to drop a bomb, it was checked. But since they're like, hey, that's like 40K away from you, so we're not gonna put our name on that bomb.
Wow.
So like if the helos want to do something about it, that's cool, but we're not going to sign off on that. And like I said, that's one of those things that it made me really question things and go, what the hell am I doing here? If these dudes that had just shot at me, yeah, they ran away, but they were still armed. They shot at the helos.
And they can go kill
We
somebody else later.
Yeah, exactly. So the helos ended up taking care of it, and they had a unit actually go out then and do boots on ground BDA or battle damage assessment, which again, that's one of those things. Checking the block. You're going to have guys actually go after you drop on that location and confirm, yep, hey,
What you
bad
got?
guys with guns. Here's this. Here's who they are. And even with that, they're like, nope, not going to do it. Well, the helos end up getting it done. And it ended up that one of the individuals that they killed was the Taliban commander who was claiming credit for the ambush on our unit that killed Matt.
Wow. Talk about
So
justice,
again,
man.
and that's one of those things. I'm like, I'm so glad that they got it, and they having that relationship with the helos, because I would talk with them constantly. Anytime they'd be in our area, they'd be calling me up and, hey, what do you got? What are you dealing with? Where are you guys at? I had made personal relationships with a lot of the aircraft that we were working with, and it paid off huge in a lot of cases. Having down vehicles and having the Apaches just rotating like, hey, yeah, this is what we're going to do. I'm going to send this guy back. He's going to get fuel. He's going to come back. I'm going to get fuel, and then we'll both be back. And we're sitting there working on a vehicle in a really vulnerable spot, but we had those guys just doing work for us, and they're like, don't they have to go somewhere else? I'm like, no, dude, they're here for us.
They're sticking with you, man.
Yeah.
So
And
let me ask you, brother,
yeah.
since man, so when that happened, you realized you couldn't get that bomb drop. Was that kind of towards where the point in your career where you were thinking about maybe it's time to get out and transition and do something else?
Not so much that, Dex. More of the like, what are we doing here? Like, if we're here right now, and like, why are we here? Like, because at this point, the ROEs, the rules of engagement, have already been just scaled right, just choked out to a point where, hey, are you sure he's shooting at you, or is he shooting at the rock at your foot? It's like, no, he's shooting at me, and it doesn't matter. Like, I hear snaps going past my head right now. Like, somebody is trying to kill me. And it's like, okay, well, maybe you could just tell him to stop. And it's like, what are we doing?
God, man.
Like, what
You
are we
trained to
doing
be
here?
a
So,
warrior, and they're trying to teach you to go hug the enemy. And that's why I tell people about that's my issue with politics today. Like, bro, in war, like if we're going to war, let's go to war. Kind of like with Israel right now. They're like, no, we're going to war. We're going to war, bro. Like they're going all in and all out, bro. Like either we're here to win or we're not. Like there is no other option besides victory, man.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you saw that closer towards the time. Could you just get out? When did you get out? What, about a year ago?
No, so I've been out since 2018. So after that
2018,
deployment,
so a little bit longer.
yeah.
Okay.
So after that deployment, I mean, that one ended up being like 9, almost 10 months, because with me being the primary JTAC, I was one of the first guy on like the first bird over there, so I could do turnover with the team that was there. And then I was one of the last guys out because I had to do the same thing with my counterpart that was coming in with Team 10 to make sure, hey, this is how we're running stuff. This is what we're seeing here. Here's how you got this. I got relationships with these guys. These guys are here, and getting them up to speed so they can have a successful deployment, or as much as a head start as possible. So that one ended up being roughly 9-10 months for that one. And then coming back from that right up into the fire again and doing a bunch of, crazy long courses there. and all the way up until deployment again, which that one I ended up deploying to South America, and we were just working
little better, little different.
little way different, way different.
Yeah.
I mean, you're living out of a hotel in Colombia and working with a really professional unit, and you're working counter narcotics and doing more of just like an advise and training role than actually going out and doing anything.
That's awesome,
So
man.
yeah,
The whole
so
different experience for you, man. So it's awesome that, man, you from the age of 5, you wanted to be a Navy SEAL, and now you get this amazing career that you get to do for 10 years. Was
yeah,
it your choice to get out, or was it because I know you got a
yeah,
full medical retirement, right?
yeah. So not definitely not my choice on it. So after that deployment, so all that was with SEAL Team 4, and then I ended up going because I had some certain qualifications that I felt could be better used at like another command. So I ended up going over there and working that piece. And for that one, we were in Africa, and it was one of those things that, again, kind of making me feel like, what are we doing here, right? I'm sitting here, and we're in Western Africa. I'm not exactly the same complexion as the
I didn't
individuals
notice that.
as the individuals in West Africa. I don't speak French. We. That's about it. And then I'm not speaking tribal dialects or anything like that. So it was just one of those things where I'm not blending into that. And so we ended up doing that. And after that, well, backing up just a minute. So I had met my wife during the workup for my third platoon with SEAL Team 4. I had met her. Her brother was NSW, Naval Special Warfare, EOD, Explosive Ordnance Disposal,
Okay, so
all of that. He was getting ready to deploy, and we just kind of randomly by chance, so my brother-in-law now, my sister-in-law, she's like, hey, my boyfriend's deploying. I was like, yeah, sure, I'll come out, whatever. And then Kaylee comes walking in with one of her friends. Kaylee's my wife, and just the rest is kind of history type thing. But so she had kind of encouraged. We went to like a pre-deployment night, and they had like the command psychologist there, and he was a phenomenal individual, just amazing human. And when he spoke, it was really impactful.
yeah.
And my wife, we're sitting at the table there at the dinner, and she looks over at me and she goes, you need to go talk to him. I go, okay.
Better listen.
Yeah. And I'm really glad I did, because so I started kind of unpacking some of that once I was at that last command, because that's where he was the command psychologist for. And he laid it out and had a big whiteboard and starts, all right, here you are. Here's when you're born. Okay, this happened to you here. This happened to here. Now, do you see how this makes you respond this way? And then this makes you not trust anyone here because of this, this, this. And just how he laid it out, it really painted that picture of, oh, it makes sense. And so I started working with him on that a little bit, which now that kind of gets you into a whole nother thing of, it's really tricky, especially within special forces of any kind, that if you start talking to a psych, it's super taboo.
Yeah, man, that's pretty much the end of the career almost.
Right. And I've talked to guys now, guys that were, they were new guys with me on that deployment. My second deployment to Afghanistan, guys that were new guys, when I'm on my third deployment, stuff like that. And now they're chiefs, they're, command master chiefs, stuff like that. And it's the same thing. And it's disheartening because it's their reasoning. One of the guys, his reasoning on it was, well, hey, he would get pulled out of rotation. If you start talking to psych about your combat traumas. He's going to get pulled out of rotation because he's not good. And I looked at him and I said, well, hey, isn't it better that he goes
And get
and he
fixed.
talks to somebody and works on it, as opposed to not, and then breaking while you're on a deployment, while you're in the midst of a gunfight? Like what's worse on that? An individual that goes and starts doing something, you go to medical because you jack up your knee. No one, oh, hey, get yourself over to physical therapy. Here's this, here's that. They give you the tools and resources to mend that. But as soon as you start talking the mental aspect on it, that's when it starts getting, ooh, no, not good to go.
That's a no, man.
Right.
I mean, it tells you something when you have a Navy SEAL like Mike Day. I read his book not long ago. I believe he was shot. My God, I forgot how many times.
27 times?
Yeah, 27 times. And this man went through so much and overcame all this. And then I heard last year, I think it was earlier this year or late last year, he kills himself. And I'm like, dude, if you have a Navy SEAL, the baddest of all badasses, can't having that trouble transitioning, there's a problem and things got to change, man. But that's why I say, we have to find our own healing. And when I look at what you're trying to do for the Navy SEAL Foundation, I look at this possibly as is this, I guess, kind of your healing, what you're trying to do with the swim? If you could explain that to the people.
Yeah.
And a little bit of the Navy SEAL Foundation and what they do.
Yeah, absolutely, Dex. So that's where, to kind of wrap up, like you said, it wasn't my choice or not to get out. I had talked about, well, maybe I will, maybe I won't. With this, what ended up happening is it was completely removed from me. And, I was put into a med board and, they did an evaluation, everything like that. And, hey, you are no longer fit for service. Okay. Your back's messed up. You got a TBI, traumatic brain injury. You have PTSD. And so that choice was then taken. Okay, well, now I'm done with it, right? And going through it, and it wasn't a lot of help. It was kind of one of those things. Hey, you're broke. I can't use you anymore.
Throw you away.
Go do this, right? Go over here. Stay out of the way. Go get yourself help, sure, but that's about it, right? So through that, then I've become a really big advocate, especially for veterans, making sure guys that are getting injured, guys that are getting ready to get out, anything like that, there's so many resources out there. So making sure that they have those. And one of those is the Navy SEAL Foundation. They are by far, they've helped me out. They've helped my family out. They've helped a lot of my buddies out from, transitioning out of the teams and trying to start something new, be it go to school, start a business. They have so many connections that they can help get you linked up so you can be successful outside of Naval Special Warfare, outside of the SEAL teams. So they're an incredible foundation. 93 cents to the dollar of all donations goes back to the NSW families.
That is incredible.
The people.
Because we know what happened with things like the Wounded Warrior Project, where it was like something awful. Like 80% of the money was going to these executives.
Right.
And that's why I was like, I wanted to have you on, because I was like, I've heard nothing but good things about the SEAL Foundation, and that the money actually goes to helping the people that need help.
Exactly. And that's the thing, Dex. Like, they are an incredible organization, and that's where going through, and I've continued then working on a lot of, just a decade of pedal to the floor going. That third workup cycle for me, at one point, because in that 2-year block of going to schools, working with your platoon, working with all the other guys, and then a 6-month deployment, they only allow you 480 days to be gone, to be TDY, temporary duty.
Yeah.
And they had me counting up. They're like, okay, so how many days do you actually have gone? Because we need you to have that full 180 for deployment available. And I was at like 370 something, or sorry, 470 something for that 2. So over half of that time for that workup, I was on the road.
Man,
And I had a house. I was
but you weren't in it.
hardly ever in it. Yeah. I come back, be there for a week or two, and then bounce out again. Be somewhere else for a month, for 2 weeks, 3 weeks. And so that's where I've really stepped in a lot of this with the advocacy. And that's where I'm really happy I'm able to get on here and speak as well. And I've done this a lot with other podcast hosts and just individuals in general to try and get that out there and break that stigma of the mental health. Like I said, you go and you jack up your knee, you go to the physical therapist, right? There's no they're like, oh man, that sucks. Yeah. Oh, you're doing PT? That's awesome. Like, we got to get you back in here. But as soon as you start talking about the neck up, it's frowned on. It's not talked about. It's like, well, hey, yeah, if you need to, go do your thing, man. And it's so messed up because coming back from that deployment from Afghanistan, and this is again getting into sort of the politics of the military, and where again I'm like, this is wrong. You get back and you're in a hotel doing your decompression stop, so you're not just going back from war zone back to your bed. They make you stop at a third location for like 2 days, if that, and they give you some PowerPoint classes, and everyone meets with a psych, right? Everyone meets with the psych, but literally the meeting with the psych is you sit down in the hotel room with them, and they're like, hey, anything you want to talk about? And everyone's response generally, nope.
Yep. I don't want to delay me getting home.
Yeah. And he goes, okay, well, if you do, here's my office. And you're like, yep, later, I'm going to go, drink or do whatever to numb myself and not deal with it. I'm like, but hey, check in the block. Everyone met with a psych, right? So we're good. We're covered because no one said they wanted to talk. Exactly. So that's where I go, no, that system is broke. That is not acceptable, because what should be happening is, okay, you get back, everyone will sit down, and even if you just sit in that office and stare at the psych for an hour, and you'd have to do that for 4 weeks after you get back, well, shit, maybe you get bored after the second day you're there and sitting there for 30 minutes going, well, I can sit here and stare at you some more, or what's up,
Yeah.
and something will and it's hard. Like, it's hard, especially when towards the end, I played like musical therapist, you could call it, because I'd have somebody that would go, oh well, hey, I'm changing stations, or my duty changed, or well, I can't do this anymore because of this reason. So then you got to go and you got to tell all this stuff. You got to grab your little bag of demons and go, here's everything.
Start all over again with a new person.
And
it's a horrible way to live.
That hurts, and it's hard. So like when you actually find somebody that's really an amazing provider, which the commander who I ended up going to a program out in San Diego, and it was the only program I ever went to. Towards the end, I was at such a point that I was like, I'm done. Like, I'm ready to just check out. I was ready to kill myself. And it ended up that, my wife, she's like, I don't know what to do. So she ends up reaching out to my parents because she doesn't know what else to do. My oldest brother, like I said, he was Army. He had a lot of problems with PTSD, and he's doing a lot better now. He does a lot of work on it, though. He works on it.
It's a job, brother. It's a job. It's literally, it's rough.
So he goes, and, my wife reaches out to my dad, and he's like, not again. Like, I'm not doing this again. So he randomly Facebook messages the then 4-star general of SOCOM, of Special Operations Command, Raymond Thomas, which apparently they were back in Ranger Battalion together.
Oh, wow. So they go back. They got history.
yeah. So he goes, my dad sends this thing. Hey, this is, I'm worried about my son. He needs some help. And he gets back to me and he's just like, yep, I remember you. I'm on it. The next day I had an opening at a program, because before that they're like, hey, we got nothing for you. You know, we don't have any programs for you. There's no slots here. And then I get a call in the middle of the night, because apparently what happened is 4-star called the 2-star, called the
Oh,
so it came from the top down
heads was
to,
rolling, man.
and well, like I said, and then next thing I know, I got a spot to a program which I needed desperately, because it was the first time in my career that I was actually able to sit down and focus on working through the trauma, working through all the stuff that I had dealt with over, the decade of going and training for war,
Yeah.
preparing for war, being in war. And the commander that I had there, she was a phenomenal human being. And I recently found out from a buddy of mine who I met there, and like him and I are like, he is one of my closest people. He was a dog handler, and we met. We call it Crazy Camp. We're like, yeah, no, we met at Crazy Camp, and people look at us. They're like, what? Like, yeah, no. Well, he had let me know that apparently she was like the commander who ran the program, and she was my therapist, and she was amazing. Well, apparently she passed away in like a motorcycle accident like
Oh God,
years
man.
back. And my buddy just told me this, and it was like during the 4th of July this year. We were out in Colorado and we were hanging out. We got our families together, and him and I are just talking and catching up. And he told me, and it just hit me so hard, because she had made such an impact
Wow.
on my life. Like, she was the one that recommended me for the med board. She's like, you could maybe, power through this and do that. She's like, but I think, she's like, this is what you need. And she wasn't malicious about it or anything like that. It was a true sense of care. And that's like where you need more, we need more people like that, looking out for the service members.
We need
Actually,
warriors to look out for warriors, brother.
right.
That is
To actually
absolutely, because
take,
they're going to listen to you more than anybody else, man. Because
right.
you've
And
been there and you know the training and you know it, man. So, but let me ask you before we get ready to roll
yeah.
up out here. Tell us about the swim that you got coming up to raise money
Okay. Okay. So
for the
the Tampa
foundation,
Bay
man.
Frogman Swim is, like I said, it's the 15th annual Tampa Bay Frogman Swim, and it's hosted by the Navy SEAL Foundation. Now, they started this 15 years ago to start raising awareness for naval special warfare, for families, for everything like that. And the Navy SEAL Foundation, I already covered, 93 cents a dollar goes back to the operators, to their families. And the organization as a whole does so much for the community. So their goal for this swim is to raise $1 million, right? Um, and for me, during the swim, they go and they give essentially like a fallen SEAL or fallen NSW member to every participant of the swim, to kind of dedicate and do it in honor of. And I was like, Matt's my boy. Like, I'm doing that for him every
Absolutely.
year. For the last couple of years, we've been having like a group Zoom call with all the guys from that platoon, with Matt's parents, his little brother, his younger sister, and we just kind of we hang out and we talk and just reminisce about it. And that's, yeah, his brother and sister there in that picture you kind of got going.
There you go.
Um, and so I'm doing the swim for that, because the more that I can help bring awareness to the foundation, especially such as this, that truly makes impacts. Because, like I said, it's not just where they do monetary donations. They have so many connections to get you set up for mental health, for physical health, your rehab. They have the ability to get guys, and I've seen it firsthand, where they do this stuff and they're able to help guys out, which they would otherwise slip through the cracks. So that's where it's so important to me to do this, and that was one of those things we always did. You'd have a big command PT, and we'd go and we'd swim in the ocean. We had swims in Virginia Beach in the middle of fucking January, snow on the beach,
Oh
and
God.
it's freezing cold, and you're all sitting there going, "What the hell are we doing?" And you got the CO out there. He's like, "Get your asses in the water. Like, let's do this." And you're like, "Oh, you are fucking crazy." So getting back to those frogman roots of doing the swim, helping drive awareness for NSW as a whole, and also bringing it to an incredible organization such as the Navy SEAL Foundation. So that's where I'm going. The link is there. People are able to reach out if anyone wants to donate. I mean, it would be greatly appreciated. 100% of donations for the page that you got up there, Dex. That's my personal fundraising page for the event. So everything that's going through there, that's what I'm contributing. The goal generally that they set is $2,000 per participant, because that should hey, this isn't it's a fun thing, but it's also it's something to give back. And for me, I'm like, I can do better than that. I need to do better than that to give back to a community that I deeply care about, that shaped so many, over a decade of my life. So that's where I'm like, hey, 10 grand, I can do that. So $5, if you're listening to this and you're like, I can skip my Starbucks, right? I
There
can
you
skip
go.
that $6 mocha choca bullshit, and donate that. It's appreciated. It all goes to people that they need it, because after 20 years of these dudes fighting, having been there, there's so much that you have to still live with after the fact on that. So being able to give back to that and make sure that we can and take care of these people that allow for the freedom to sit on your couch and drink that $6 mocha choca bullshit.
Absolutely,
That's what
brother.
it
Yes,
is.
sir.
Trying to give back to that community. So it's greatly
Sacrificing for those that
appreciated.
have sacrificed for us, man. Dude, I would, man, I wish I didn't have to go to work. I wish I had more time, dude, because there's so much more with you. I just want to be able to unpack with this thing, dude. But fortunately, we're in
Well,
time. I'm gonna have to have you back,
maybe after
man.
the swim. Maybe I was gonna say maybe after the swim or something, we'll
Hell
catch
yeah,
back up and see how everything went. But I
man.
truly
Oh yeah,
appreciate it, Dex.
man. I appreciate you, man. I really do. Like I said, my little mom and pop podcast, bro. Hopefully, people are listening and they listen and they, hopefully y'all feel moved to help donate to, like I said, there's nothing more beautiful than sacrificing your comfort for to help a greater cause, dude. And I can't think of any other organization right now that I would say that for than the Navy SEAL Foundation, man, because y'all been, like you said, y'all been hitting the nail on the head, man. Y'all been the hammer for 20 plus years in the war on terror on the front lines with, I mean, doing all these direct combat action missions and all this, and the amount of loss you all suffer. And not just that, the amount of abuse your body's taking training. It's a continuous thing, and you all need to be cared up for, because we know that, we can only, the government's not going to do, the VA's not going to give you the best treatment. The VA's, it helps, but it ain't everything. It ain't enough. And so that's why I'm glad we have foundations like the Navy SEAL Foundation. And I'm glad that we have guys like you that are out there still putting up a good front, man, and going out there and trying to help bring awareness to everything that's going on, Jacob. Brother, I truly appreciate you. I appreciate your service. I know you don't want to hear it, but I'm going to say it. You're a hero. And I hate when people tell it to me too, but I tell it to everybody else, man, bro. Hey, America is
Appreciate
great
it,
because
Dex.
of people like you, man. You keep this country special, man. So, brother, I'm gonna let you go ahead and get out of here.
Yeah.
I'm gonna make sure I post the link. If you have any other, do you have any social media that people can follow you on or anything?
Yeah, so I'm on Instagram's like the only platform that I'm on, and that's just Frogman, one word, just like old school Frogman _ healing, HEALING. So Frogman _ healing, and on there I have the link for it as well for the swim, and I can send a QR code or whatever, so that way if people want to share that, you just save that picture on your phone, share it, spread it as far as you can. Anything is appreciated. I truly mean that. So thank you so much, Deck,
Hey,
and
brother, I
I'm really
appreciate you,
honored.
man. Appreciate your time, man. Appreciate your service, brother. We will have to hook up after the swim. All right, my man.
All right, sounds good, Dex. You take care. God bless, and have a good one, man.
Absolutely. You take it easy, brother. All right, ladies and gentlemen. I want to keep going, but I can't. Unfortunately, I got to go work at this wedding. And whew, man, but dude, I don't know about y'all, but I'm motivated. I'm definitely personally, I am going to donate myself. And like I said, if you can just give $5, something, man, something. I mean, it's absolutely worth it to support these heroes. We know who the Navy SEALs are. Y'all know who these dudes are, man. Go out there and give back to them, man. Help them out. Because, like I said, what they've sacrificed of their bodies and their lives for us, the least we could do is turn around and give them, $5. Put down. Yeah, you don't need all that sugar in that mocha chocolate bullshit anyway, man. You don't need all that sugar. All right. So, man, ladies and gentlemen, hey, I appreciate y'all for tuning in again. Be sure to share the show. Tell your friends, tell everybody, tune into the Iron Pitch podcast, especially this episode. So definitely please go and share this one forward. But I'm going to go ahead and get out of here, ladies and gentlemen. I appreciate y'all for tuning in as always, and I will see y'all on the next